You're listening to Ka-Pow, the pop culture podcast. Comics, television, movies, and more. If it impacts fan culture, we have something to say about it. And now, your hosts, Jordan, Cliff, and Seth.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Ka-Pow, the pop culture podcast. My name is Jordan Lowe.
I'm Cliff Barnes.
I'm Seth. No, we do not have filters on. Anybody that paid the $1, it's worth it. Jordan doesn't have a beard, and I have a beard.
And we all have microphones.
And we got microphones or
Yeah.
So the audio is going to be a lot sharper this episode. The video, can't make any promises.
yeah. Things are happening. Things are in flux.
So we had a little miscommunication on what time we were recording.
Yeah.
So we've been scrambling a little bit tonight. I just got out of the shower. My hair is so long, it's going to start feathering as it dries.
Cool.
I have no beard. No one has seen my face because I've been wearing a mask.
Yeah.
So
That's why I grew a beard.
It's just a hot mess over here. So if you want to be a patron and see what's happening,
I never have had a beard in my life. But it never looks remotely good to me when it starts growing. So I just have had a mask on for the last couple weeks. So I was like, I'm just not going to shave and see what happens.
Now's the time. Now's the time. Nothing matters. No one cares.
If I ever had a chance.
Right. It's an experiment.
I was like, I don't care what. Nobody can see it. Well, here we are. This is what happened. I take it off. For $1, you can look at it.
Yeah, we post the videos of these amazing Zoom calls on our patron-only page. You'll get the audio out there. So what are we talking about tonight?
Oh, what we always talk about. If you give us 2 weeks, we gotta come back around and talk about some Star Wars.
Star Wars! Nothing but Star Wars! That's right. It's never really out of mind, I don't think. And anytime we get a little stumped, maybe, there's not much going on, we can always come back to Star Wars.
There's constant news.
Yeah,
there's
really
constant
is.
Stuff. They keep dropping stuff on Disney Plus that is related to Star Wars, and so we got to talk about it. Plus, there was some developments in my Star Wars watching in the last couple weeks. I'm kind of amazed. It was really 2 weeks ago tonight that we were talking about this, and you wanted to talk about Clone Wars Season 7. I was like, Cliff, you can't. I'm just now starting Season 4.
Yeah.
And I've watched a lot of stuff since then. But before we get to that, I do want to cover. You had talked about the gallery.
Yeah.
And had put us. I was making you say no spoilers here for episode 2, where Filoni apparently gave some great speech there, or monologue at the end of that episode, and I watched that, and that was great. That was. Did you watch? You watched that too, Jordan? Right?
No, sir.
Did not. Okay. But we're going to talk about it right now.
Have you did you see the little clip or anything like that? It was kind of all over social media for a couple days or so.
You commented something that made me think you had seen it, because it was the Duel of the Fates.
If it doesn't have Jeff Goldblum in it, I haven't watched it on Disney Plus since The Mandalorian.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, there was he gave a little thing like just shedding new light on the lightsaber fight with Darth Maul against Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan towards the end of Phantom Menace, and the musical piece. They're one of the best Star Wars musical pieces since the original trilogy, for sure, is Duel of the Fates there, and that is the name of that fight, and he recontextualized it, explaining what that means, what the Duel of the Fates means, and saying how this is it. This fight is going to, determines Anakin's future.
Mm-hmm.
Is he going to be raised by Qui-Gon Jinn
as a father figure.
Who is like a stable father figure who's going to raise him and possibly have him become a much better person than he would have otherwise? Or is he going to be shepherded by this young Obi-Wan who does not necessarily have the best focus on how he should be, treating this kid? And it was I never had heard that.
Mm-mm.
I don't know if anybody had. Where he got it, why did George never explain it? If that's what the piece of music is called, I feel like he would have shed some. I mean, somebody came up with that. I highly doubt John Williams called it Duel of the Fates.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else named that for this, and it was just blew my mind.
Yeah,
I heard about it because Cliff actually spliced a lot of that audio into our last episode.
Mm-hmm.
So anyone who had bothered to listen to said
I don't
episode
listen to this.
probably heard.
I was here for it.
But or if you watch the video, if you're a patron and just watch the video, you did not get that in the episode. So
anyway,
but yeah, you're right
amazing.
though. You're right. It was amazing. I think it blew a lot of minds out there.
That room, watching those people sitting in that room was great. Is like, because that's how I felt. It's just like they'd never heard that in their lives.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And neither had we, because I mean, I've made no big secret out of it. The Phantom Menace was a huge disappointment for me. I just could never get into it. I did not care about Qui-Gon Jinn. He was just boring to me. The acting was horrible. I didn't like the story, all the politics. It just, at that time, and I was like, what, that came out in 99. I was not too far out of high school. And so I just didn't care about what they were talking about. It's just not, and I think a lot of people felt that way, that it just wasn't the movie we thought we were going to get. We were doing that, 20 years ago. We had it played out in our mind for our entire lives of how it should be, and then when we didn't get that, we were disappointed. Not that
that's the thing. If I know anything about George Lucas, it's that like this is all in his head, and he's not great at communicating it out to like dealing with actors and things. Like, here's your motivation. Like, he never told Harrison Ford what his motivation or his backstory or his where to find that drama, but apparently it was all in his head. So yeah, if he had this whole explanation, he didn't bother to communicate it with anybody. Maybe it was there, but it wasn't something he was telling.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Dave is just the George Whisperer. I don't know.
Yeah, whatever. It just gave me such respect for Dave. I already had that, but it builds and really made me want to start watching some of the stuff he was he had a hand in. But they had the episode 3 of the gallery thing was about the cast, and they just all, honestly, that episode is them just telling each other how great they are. It's on and on. I mean, probably the highlight was them talking about Carl Weathers saying, well, you're gonna put me in a mask, okay, I'll do whatever. But that's not surprised when they ended up not putting him.
I'm too pretty.
Yeah, basically. But that episode was fine. But the 4th episode was insane. And I'd been hearing about the volume forever, like the stage set thing, like this creation that they are able to just have this virtual reality on stage and they don't have to go anywhere. And it was, just going on. All I've heard is on and on about how this technology is so great. And then for them to show that in this episode 4, it was amazing. It was amazing to me. And it's so simple, yet so complicated at the same time.
As someone who hasn't seen it, what we're talking, like, beyond green screen, beyond digital effects.
Well, basically, the basics of it would be like if you had a green screen, say you're in a room on a stage or whatever, and you had green screen all around you, but and you can't see what is on that screen if you're the actor. With this, you can. They have went out and photographed these locations before filming, they've taken photographs and have like entire 360 views, depending on what they're doing, how wide of an angle they have. But it's all there on the screen, and then they are filming you in front of the screen. They're filming the actor and the screen, and they can see what is on the screen,
right? And the screens are so high definition. Watching the show, I couldn't tell. I had no idea that they weren't at a location. I knew it did not look like green screen filming watching the show, but
right.
But yeah, this is something Jon Favreau has developed, starting with the Jungle Book, and then he did, kind of getting the idea of what he wanted, because green screen is, there's only so much you can do with it.
A lot of people have been doing. Everybody's been working at it separately. Even George, they gave credit to him, like he had this idea a long time ago. He just was never able to bring it to fruition. And a lot of different people in the field have been working on this, but they finally got enough of the smart people together, a lot spearheaded by John, and just were able to complete this and make it happen. And it's unbelievable. It seems so simple, but this is the beginning of the end of anybody going anywhere to film anything.
Yeah, they were talking, referencing George talking about people making movies in their garage, and they're like, that's what we're doing. We have, it's a curved screen behind the actors, above the
Reminds you of
actors.
Soren. Reminds me of Soren.
It does, yeah. I get that. That, they're doing projection onto these screens, and then as they move the camera, they can
just tap a key and the background moves.
Yeah.
They're like, we don't really like that exact angle. Let's just tap this and go. Now there's just a few degrees. The whole background changes. And they're like, it may look a little blurrier, but on the camera, it looks perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And Carl Weathers made such a good point. He's like, what is great? I think it was him. He's like, what is great is no longer are we all standing there and they're like, okay, you're all looking at this. All of you imagine it. Now we don't have 4 or 5 people imagining all these different things. In our heads, we're all seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For the last 15 or 20 years, we've all seen that, behind the scenes footage on any Star Wars movie, Avengers movie, people on green boxes, jumping from green box to green box, and there's X's painted on the walls and stuff. And we're like, wow, movie magic. That's amazing. So this seems to be the next leap. It's almost like the original rear projection film of in the 40s, 2 people in a car. Mm-hmm. They would show the background moving behind them and look very fakey, and you could tell it was just 2 guys on a set somewhere, and it was the film was projected behind them. So this seems to be
they even mentioned
version of it.
King Kong, 1933 or whenever that was made, using and some of the techniques they were using then. They've just updated, to what an unbelievable product now. And then I just
now I understand why when we that first episode and we're realizing all those directors were there all the time. I bet they didn't want to be anywhere else. They were like, we want to watch how this works. We want to be a part of this. They were all super excited about it, See, if you got the video right now, you're seeing some full effects. We have our own Ka-Pow garage.
Yeah.
I'm a special effects wizard with zoom back.
Jordan's got the volume shirt on right now.
I wore a blue shirt, and it projects right onto it.
Can I buy that? That's one of those T-shirts you sell. Anyway, it was awesome.
Yeah, it was really, really neat. I'll admit, I do enjoy the referencing of Lucas, because it's been such a complaint since Disney bought everything Lucas, that they're doing him wrong. They're not involving him and all this crap. And sure, it's taken a few years. George was done with it. George wasn't interested in making anything else. That's why he sold the company to Disney. But, and then, you know, you get the stories about, well, George gave us the idea of what he would do with the sequel movies, but we didn't want to do that. And everybody's like, yeah, you should have done what George did. Well, that's fine. I either way, whatever. But now they finally come together with this, you know, George Lucas is all about innovation. Innoventions used to be in Epcot.
That's pretty cool, man. It is constantly.
But
it's all about midichlorians and innovations.
Yes, but but he's always been about that, and to the point where he was more interested in you know, when he was doing Phantom Menace, using digital cameras for the first time, things like that. He was always pushing forward to almost to a fault, because people criticized him for being too focused on that and not focused on the story. And then we get this, finally, 2020, something good came out of it, and we got, you know, the Mandalorian show, which is this wonderful Star Wars story, and it's innovative and getting fans excited. It gets the creators excited behind it. The people making the movies, they want to do more. And which is exactly what happened with the original Star Wars movie. And
something else I watched was the Skywalker Legacy, because they recently released Rise of Skywalker. Well, they put it out on video, and it came to Disney Plus. And as one of the extras, they had several short videos. But one of the extras is the full-length documentary, much like they had Director and the Jedi on The Last Jedi, which is a great documentary. This is about, you know, the making of Rise of Skywalker, and it is something. Mm-hmm. It's a very good documentary. Totally recommend watching it. It's very frustrating to me. I love Star Wars, right? And right now, I always feel like I'm peak Star Wars here or there, but it's just Star Wars all the freaking time. And right now, I feel just as embedded in it as ever. And I'm watching that, and I felt so. Where you watch Director and the Jedi, there was a lot of they were a little tentative in that, and they were very real in the making of that. And this was just so much of sugarcoating what was happening to tell you why you loved this. What, you know, I don't like anything, you know. I mean, I remember us reviewing Rise of Skywalker, and I saw it 3 times, I think, and I just because I love Star Wars, there's so much I try to say that I like good about it, but there's a ton of things that frustrate me about it. And especially this whole battle going on and on about Last Jedi and so on. It was frustrating for me to watch Daisy Ridley make multiple comments about basically
Rian Johnson.
She didn't like Last Jedi. She didn't like the story. She liked this. And I'm just like, you sound dumb. You know, I know that's a popular opinion. John Boyega is the same way, you know.
Yeah.
But that's just because I think he wants to be a Jedi, and Ryan was slowing down his story of getting to be Jedi-ish. And she made comments about Luke finally getting to be Luke and all this, and I'm just like, listen, JJ set up whatever Ryan did in the second one. When he ended Force Awakens, how did Force Awakens end? She comes up there and pulls out this lightsaber and holds it out to Luke. What was possibly J.J. Abrams setting up there that other than what happened? What was in his mind was The Last Jedi? Was Luke going to take it and say, yeah, let's go kick some butt? No, I highly doubt that. He was going to be a frustrated teacher just like Yoda. Just like Ryan did. I believe that those intentions were there. I'm sure it would have been a candy-coated thing, and Ryan did it much better to my liking, but it was never going to be what people act like it was going to be. Don't release the JJ cut. That wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, and it wasn't going to be Luke Skywalker out there slaying stormtroopers.
Right. And but I don't like much of what JJ ended up doing. And I really hate. Well, in this you see they talk a lot about Carrie Fisher. You know, it feels everybody talking about her, and they've got her daughter there and everything, and that's all great. But talking about how they really go on into how they all just had to use her dialogue and write things around her dialogue and stuff. And that is so exposing, you know. That is how JJ is. What a metaphor for we are just going to use the past to make this. Whatever, you know, we're going to repeat the past over and over in JJ's movies because we're going to take her dialogue even and just write around it and just shove the old stuff in here. It was just like, it just made me mad to watch that. It was I love watching those behind the scenes documentaries, but I didn't like how they were just over fluffy about it and not unwilling to criticize themselves, where in Directing the Jedi, Ryan was very like, you know, unsure. Mark Hamill was sitting there like, I didn't like this at first, but I'm coming around to it. You know, they were willing to say what they were feeling, you know, instead of just saying this is the way it's supposed to be.
I watched a few of those extra clips also. If you click on The Rise of Skywalker on Disney Plus, that's where you pull that up. I see the documentary. I've got it playing here on my other monitor. But
I watched the Warwick Davis one you were.
Yeah, the Warwick Davis one I loved. Just because a lot of it was nostalgic for me. It was nostalgic for him, but it was sweet in how he was talking about just how Star Wars changed his life. You know, he was an 11-year-old kid in 83 that he played with Star Wars toys and kind of lucked out, got a role as an Ewok, and he was able to go on and make other movies and star in Willow and then come back to Star Wars. And then for him on Rise of Skywalker, if you don't know, the very end where we see Wicket on Endor, there's another little Ewok there with him. That Ewok is played by his actual son, who, you know, is also a dwarf. And for him, you know, it was really special for him to be able to get suited up as Wicket and his son to be there dressed up as an Ewok too. It was very enjoyable. They had some really good footage from when they were filming the indoor scenes back in 82 for Jedi, and with Carrie Fisher and Harrison and Mark Hamill. It was just, I really enjoyed that, you know, 8 minutes or whatever it was.
Yeah, it was good. Those are it's all good. All that extra behind the scenes stuff is good. Now, the really good is that I did, you know, what we started out talking about, I did finish the Clone Wars. Now, we didn't watch every episode of the Clone Wars because most of the things I read were there's some fluff. Here's the stuff you need to watch for continuity. What was going to come after, and here's some honorable mentions. I watched everything that anybody mentioned was even remotely necessary or worth watching, and there were still a few things in there that I thought I could have done without that or without this. But for the most part, oh my gosh, I really enjoyed it, and all the up into building up and watching the season 7, those 12 episodes.
Yeah,
I mean, there was fluff in the middle of that season, honestly.
Big time.
There was like 4 episodes. There was 12 episodes. There was 4 good ones at the beginning and 4 amazing ones at the end. The middle is fluff.
Yeah, the middle we had, that was the story. You had 3 story arcs. You had the Bad Batch. Then you had Ahsoka and the 2 sisters that I can't think of their names.
I don't know their names.
It doesn't matter.
I like the actress. It was very distinct voice acting and things. I did like those actresses. I mean, they were fine. It's still good.
Yeah.
But compared to the last 4 episodes, they could have put that in a theater. If they put that in a theater, I'd go watch it right now.
Yeah, and I had done the same thing. I didn't watch as much as you did, but I went back and watched some of those really important Mandalore episodes from back in the day. that, because I didn't watch Clone Wars, but a few episodes here and there. So
I'm surprised. I just got the impression that you watched those. You talked about them.
I think it was just the when the time period they were on Cartoon Network, and then it went away for several years, and then it came back. It's
like 2008 to 2013, and then off and on. But I watched all that stuff. That tons of Mandalore stuff. Mm-hmm. Like you're saying, like tons of good stuff.
Yeah, that was really good stuff.
Tons of. I have such a different perspective on Darth Maul. Mm-hmm. After watching what I've watched, like what a character.
And that was the thing with me. The prequel movies, I was just never that big of a fan. I just, I watched them and I was just kind of like done with them. But the Clone Wars really enhances those movies. They take character development you don't get in those three movies, with Darth Maul, even Anakin, and all the Mandalorian characters, other Jedis. They take care and they develop storylines out of it. That
the clones, the clones, like Rex and Cody, but those individual clones having stories and big moments where they, you get to know the individual clones, and it's just,
yeah. And let's be honest, though, apart from like the main couple characters, what character development do a lot of these Star Wars characters have? And they're beloved.
Right.
It was years of novels, comics, playing with the toys in the sandbox, like. You created your own history and fandom and love for them. So yeah, I have no problem believing a cartoon made the character even cooler.
Yeah,
it's one of the best. I'm so impressed. I guess I thought, first off, the animation, and it runs like this on into Rebels, which it improves some too. But anything in space, any space battle in these shows is phenomenal. Just beautiful animation. Now the individual characters, some of it's a little, I don't know if I love.
You get those dead eyes especially in the early seasons.
Yeah,
I really noticed that.
It's a very kiddie.
Yeah, sure.
Animation of individual people, and it improves over time. But they're definitely sticking to a certain thing they're doing. But serious stories as all get out. They still find a perfect balance of humor and serious things going on. Like there's some things I would be surprised. I'm surprised that people just let their kids watch it because it can get really dark, and they're all over the place with that stuff. But really great storytelling throughout. Like I said, there's some dead spots in Clone Wars, and there's a little bit in Rebels. Okay, well, let's get to this first off, Cliff. What did you think of the last 4 episodes there of Clone Wars?
I was a little surprised by how in depth they went as far as into
the timeline.
Scenes of Revenge of the Sith on Clone Wars.
Yeah, they had like. I mean, are we just going to spoil it?
Yeah. Yeah, okay. It's been several weeks.
Time has passed. I've watched it so we can talk about it.
Right.
But I love this kind of stuff. I'm the biggest lover of this kind of, I mean, as much as I hate the idea of like what they did in Solo, where they're like, here's how you got your name and here's how you did this, or like, I hate that when they do it wrong, but I'm a big fan of when they do it right and fill in the blanks on things in between things. Like I love the idea of Shadows of the Empire, filling in things. And I love this. I love that they're filling in parts. Just like when we talk about Better Call Saul all the time, I don't know how far they're going to get into like Breaking Bad or if they're going to reach their tendrils with this show and with this, but they did this with Clone Wars. You're like, how close are they going to get to this? and to reach in, they are actually into Revenge of the Sith, just on the periphery, like Ahsoka having quit the Jedi.
Right.
She was his Padawan all through the Clone Wars. She comes back, she has quit as a Jedi because they distrusted her this one time. And this is a theme, even in the movies and the prequels, that Anakin doesn't trust the Jedi, and there's plenty of reasons not to. They're not perfect. They're not doing
right. Yeah. At this point, this is the kind of the end of the Jedi. They have become,
they're too big for their britches.
They are. It's been so long since they've had anybody stand up to them that
even Yoda doubts what they're doing, and they. So when she comes back and she's like, "I'm not a Jedi anymore," and she and Maul is so deep. Maul is like against, the Sith and the Jedi. He's just like, I don't like any of this,
Right.
He's telling her, Anakin is the apprentice of, and she is as close to Anakin as she's his Padawan. She left, but come back, and he's like telling her, you do realize that he is the apprentice, and he just doesn't.
Right.
Neither of them really, but he doesn't realize it, but he is.
It goes back to the Sith tell the truth,
right,
and the Jedi tell from a certain point of view.
He is already dancing to Sith Don't Lie down there. Oh, you got to pump that in right now. But that's so good. But then, I just love that Maul and Ahsoka playing off each other, and they're both like, she's at the height, right. Not she does have a lot of story left, but right there, she's so grown up now.
Yeah, finally. Yeah.
And she is, she captures him, turns him over to the Jedi, but she doesn't tell them that what she learned about Anakin, because she still has this allegiance to him. She think, everybody feels like they can save him. Well, then all of a sudden it's Order 66.
Right.
And I'm like, we are really into, because they've captured Maul, and Maul you see in his cell, and he is hearing.
Yeah.
Whether it's, I don't necessarily got the vibe they were close, but he's hearing it happening in Palpatine's office with Windu and Anakin, all that going down, and them enacting Order 66. I'm like, wow, we are in the movie now. We're in that timeline. They've went deeper than I thought they were going to.
I love when they have that meeting, with the holograms, and we see part of that we saw part of that meeting in Revenge of the Sith in the movie, but here in this series we see the other part of that meeting after it cuts away in Revenge of the Sith, and we see Ahsoka there and talking to Yoda, and seamless integration.
Yep. Innovention.
Innovention.
But I totally agree. That is just right up my alley. And then, she basically, you get the Order 66 enacted, and boom, all the clones who you have grown to love, individual clone troopers. You've learned so much about them, and now, and even Rex, your number one, everybody's favorite, is like, let's kill some Jedi. Let's go.
Yeah. We got it, finally got us to the emotional point it was originally intended to in the movie that just never struck a chord with me.
Never happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
After all the episodes of Clone Wars you watch, you become attached to these characters, and she fixes, basically they get that chip out of Rex's head. They all have this chip in their head, which there was a whole arc of that in the Clone Wars. That was
with
super
Fives.
interesting. And that was so good. So good. I love that arc. And then this comes back, so they fix Rex, and then it's just basically Ahsoka and Rex against the world. What, what a great finish, somewhere Anakin is like becoming Darth Vader, but so good. So when this was over, I was like, okay, I'm watching Rebels. I gotta watch Rebels. And now, how much of Rebels did you watch?
I watched every episode.
Yeah.
On the original run, so I haven't really watched it for some time.
So since we talked 2 weeks ago, and I was starting the fourth season of Clone Wars, I finished Clone Wars and Nick and I watched all 77 episodes of Rebels.
Yeah.
We didn't skip a single one.
So you like Rebels too?
I love Rebels.
Yeah.
I love it. It.
Rebels takes, if anyone hasn't watched it, Rebels takes place in the timeline after Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith, right before Rogue One. Yeah, Rogue One. Yeah, I forgot about Rogue One. So this is about the central character.
You have Ezra Bridger. It's fresh for me. Ezra Bridger is like the Padawan. Kanan Jarrus, Freddie Prinze Jr. is the Jedi, who's like a leftover from the Jedi.
He was a boy in Order 66 who survived, but then hid.
Right.
Changed his name. Yeah.
You have Hera, who's a Twi'lek, if that's how you pronounce it.
Yep.
Then you have Jeb, a Lasat.
Zeb.
Who's like,
Zeb,
sorry, but he's a Lasat. He's like the monster in the group, the Chewie.
Yeah, they took the original Macquarie concept art for Chewbacca.
Oh, okay.
That they never used. They changed it, and they used that image for that race. That's how they came about.
And you have the droid as Chopper, and who's voiced by Dave Filoni. Even though it's just gibberish.
Yeah.
And Sabine,
yeah,
who is the Mandalorian in it. And it is so Guardians of the Galaxy / Firefly. It is like, it actually surprised me how quickly they invest you in this family. This made family, this found family of people. I swear it was just a handful of episodes. I was like, I love them.
They what it was for me when this came out was this was the first thing I saw that felt 1977 Star Wars. Even though it was an animated show, just the environment, the cast, all the different aliens around. Even the planet, they're mostly on Lothal, where Ezra's from, but it felt like, very entrenched, like it had always been there in Star Wars.
And then, you have your ship, Ghost, and you've got. They're all using the Spectre this and Spectre, their Spectre numbers, which pays off. Names. Yeah, which pays off in the last episode so well, and then there's the writing's really good as far as like setting things up over the series and paying it off, and time passes between seasons. People, this kid grows up.
Yeah,
like. A lot of stuff happens. There's tons of more Mandalorian stuff. Darksaber, you get all that Darksaber. You had tried to explain to me before, but having no context, I don't remember a single detail you told me. But now I've seen it myself and understand it. And then
so what happens is it's a small. They find each other. The small little group. They come in contact with Ezra. He becomes part of the crew. They're doing little missions in an effort to help the people of Lothal or whatever from the oppression of the Empire.
Right.
they get in contact with the rebellion in its infancy, and they become a big part of the rebellion, and they're battling the Empire on these little missions as we go along.
And you've got Inquisitors,
right,
which
Jedi
are
hunters.
super cool.
Mm-hmm.
The lightsabers, circle things that spin around like a helicopter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I loved all that. You got Maul is back and better than ever.
Yeah.
And
I love that with Clone Wars when we see him take, you get a whole arc with Maul, him trying to get into build up the crime syndicates and taking control of them, and then taking control of Mandalore.
I love that it's Black Sun,
Mm-hmm.
and Black Sun is Prince Zizor.
Yeah.
From Shadows of the Empire. I love that stuff.
Yeah. And then but the story just, it keeps moving along. And
Ahsoka back in Fulcrum.
Yeah.
You got that callous guy who's just like General Hux.
Yeah.
Only better.
He's better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so much. Yeah. There's even that one droid. I can't remember his name. Who was shortly with them. Who talks really? He's almost like a C-3PO type character, but
he's a Death Star
better.
Droid.
Yeah. He's more interesting than C-3PO.
I love when he sings in space.
Yeah.
Just floating out there in space in the void, and he's singing the droid. It is great.
Anyway, it's an excellent series. Yeah, I won't say it's like tons better than Clone Wars. It's not better than the best of Clone Wars, but it's such a more emotional story.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, you get to really know these characters, and there's some fantastic moments. Where we have developed this story, where we have to go right here to finish up with the Star Wars talk, is what they've announced about the Mandalorian,
mm-hmm.
people coming back, and I feel like we are going to get even more from this stuff. We have to.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. This is all Dave Filoni and his story that he's been telling for all these years. When they announced Katie Sackhoff coming back to play
as Bo-Katan,
Bo-Katan,
which she's from Clone Wars,
right? She did the voice acting.
She's the sister of Satine, who was the leader of Mandalorian leader,
mm-hmm.
and Bo-Katan was her sister, and she went off anyway. Sabine gets it does get confusing. Sabine, Satine, whatever.
Yeah.
They could have done better with that, but she gets the Darksaber, and this is all. It's kind of like whoever's leading Mandalore is supposed to basically have the Darksaber. Right. I'm sure you've explained this to me before, but they kind of pass that around a lot. But anyway, yeah, Katie Sackhoff voiced
mm-hmm.
Bo-Katan, and now we'll play her
live action
in Mandalore.
Yeah.
But all these people from Rebels are going to be somewhere. There's not everybody, but they're somewhere out there,
mm-hmm.
and they kind of give an awkward thing at the end of Rebels where they tell you they give you a future on some of these people, so telling you they're alive later.
Yeah, yeah, we definitely, at the end of Rebels, we see Sabine, and we see Ahsoka taking off to find Ezra, as he's been lost. There was the whole Mortis. Yeah.
We totally have never mentioned Thrawn, who was,
You haven't. I have. I've
in
mentioned
this
him.
episode.
No. On this podcast before.
Yeah. I know we've talked. I know that. I'm just mean now. Thrawn is great in this show.
Mm-hmm.
And that ends with them, Bridger and Thrawn, and there's so much to do with that.
Yeah.
And so we finished it today.
Mm-hmm.
We watched the final episode, and then I immediately went online. I was like, they have to be doing something. And there's a big rumor mill saying there's going to be another animated series coming out in November.
Yeah. I've heard that too. I expect it. Yeah,
I could see that because they cannot do everything in The Mandalorian.
Mm.
You know, they're bringing back now. They're gonna have Timothy Oliphant wearing Boba Fett's armor, and Boba Fett coming back probably wanting his armor, and Bo-Katan and the Darksaber and all that. There's a limit to how much you could do and still have this be the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda. So,
and that big rumor of an Ahsoka Tano spinoff series.
Her coming.
Yeah.
So there's going to have to be, I mean, if you're going to fulfill the Bridger story and all that, you're going to have another animated series. And I think, why would you not do that with the limits to all the content you can even come up with right now? Mm-hmm. Animation is where it's at.
Yep.
So by all means, do another animated series.
But in the timeline, like post Force Awakens, where we are in current, is all this stuff over and done with? Like, are we all looking at past events that are squeezed in before the modern trilogy?
Yeah.
Still more to go after that.
It would be
Mandalorian is obviously, like 10 years after Jedi, so it's in between. I would assume
it's that gap there.
It's got to be in there. It's not going to be after.
But they're not going to work in Rey or Finn or any kind of crossover with the new characters.
I wouldn't think so, but
I don't think so.
I could see them push into it, but there's no. I don't even know how they would do it or why they would do it. I think they'll stay away from that stuff.
Yeah, this is the 30 years between Jedi and Force Awakens is where we are with where we're going with this, right? In starting with the Mandalorian and then continuing on the Clone Wars, the Rebels storyline into, past all the Jedi stuff. So because little things that as fans we pushed for. The old guy in Return of the Jedi on Endor with the white beard, and everybody just going, "Oh my God, it could be Rex," and then Filoni going, "Yeah, that's Rex. I like that," and then we're probably gonna get Rex in the Mandalorian with Ahsoka, especially seeing that relationship over the years, and don't be surprised to see a Sabine Wren pop up too.
Oh, I'd love it. I love all those characters. Now, the thing is, there's only so much they're going to be able to do on that show. That is why what I appreciate so much about those two animated series is that there's so much more time to get to know the characters that you will never have in a 10 episode series. This is dozens of episodes to get to know them. So
right.
I'm excited to see it in any fashion. Basically, I just wanted to say I'm glad I revisited. If you are a Star Wars fan, definitely watch. Watch those shows.
The whole thing.
They're super rewarding. I was very impressed by them, and the only other one is Resistance, and it does not get good reviews. I'm not going to watch it.
It feels more. I don't like the animation style. I talked about it. I watched a couple episodes. It's the audience is for little kids. It just is. But, they have tied some of the ships into the Rise of Skywalker, that big Colossus there from that show. It made it in. And we didn't even talk about Hondo. Hondo Ohnaka from the pirate smuggler from the Clone Wars has a huge role.
Guy.
What's that?
Melch or something, his little pig guy he likes.
Oh, the little pig man. I forgot about that. But Hondo plays a huge role in the Rebel series, and then of course they've incorporated him into Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. With the Smuggler's Run, the Millennium Falcon ride, he has settled on Batuu, and with the whole pre-show of that ride, it's the giant Hondo animatronic. So it all ties in.
Yep.
Well,
hey guys, we like Star Wars.
If all this newfangled stuff doesn't float your boat, saltines and Boca Raton and stuff, you can go back to the original trilogy in the pages of Marvel Comics.
Never heard of it.
they've just relaunched basically the whole Star Wars line. And it's a little bit tighter continuity right now. So all the books coming out are set in the same time, right after Empire Strikes Back. So the main Star Wars book, they relaunched with the #1, and it picks up. They're still in Cloud City. It's like them just escaping, them yelling at Lando for betraying them. So it picks up the action like immediately where the movie ends.
You belong here in the clouds.
Right. So yeah, it's been interesting. Like Lando trying to talk his way out of them, throwing him out of an airlock because they have no reason to trust him.
Yeah,
right at the end of that movie. So
I actually was going to ask you. I was going to ask you about that because, like, I've kind of not paid any attention to those, other than Francisco Francavilla has done so many covers of those. So that's about all the interest I've shown in those. But now, after all this, I was like, I need to ask Jordan if any of those are like something. Yeah,
the main series I've enjoyed so far. I said that it's squeezing the story out of 1 minute of the Star Wars universe. They're trying to expand into a lot of stuff, but so yeah, that's the main series. They've given Darth Vader his own book, same time frame. Luke has just betrayed him and decided to jump down a hole instead of joining him, and he's not happy. He doesn't understand, why would my son betray me like this? So he's like, I'm just going to go find and kill anyone who's ever, housed him or tainted his mind, in his view. To whoever put these thoughts in his head needs to pay for it. So it's basically Darth Vader going out and going to try to just wreck anything that Luke's ever touched. And in that first issue made a lot of news because the last page, Padme shows up. We're like, wait a minute, she's dead, right? And Vader's like, whoa, I thought you were dead. But then, of course, in the next issue, we learned it was the body double.
Oh, cool.
Named something. I don't
Keira
remember
Knightley.
her name. Her name's Keira Knightley.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's weird. There's an actress named that.
Yeah, it was a little awkward.
Like she played that character.
So it's him kind of teaming up with her a little bit because she's been out of the loop. She doesn't know what's going on in the galaxy. Mm-hmm. So that was a neat twist.
How far is it into that?
A lot of these launched right at the beginning of the year and then took a break recently for some reason. So we're only into the single digits. We're into like issue 4 or 5, something like that. There's a Dr. Aphra book, which is the character created for the recent comics, kind of a scoundrel archaeologist.
Rumored to be a series, like they're going to make a series of that character, allegedly.
Yeah.
They introduced her in the Darth Vader book, I think 2 Darth Vader books ago, and she became kind of a fan favorite, so she's taken off in her own solo book. And there's also a book called Bounty Hunters. It's focusing on Boba Fett, Bosk, and Valance, who was introduced way back in the old Marvel comics. He was a bounty hunter with like a half metal face, and they've brought him back and thrown him in some of the modern continuity. So it's kind of the anti-hero book of the 4. So
I bet they're hunting Jackson the Green Bunny.
I think there's been some kind of reference to that. I don't remember for sure. Don't quote me on that.
From the original Marvel run in 1977. They didn't really have a story or any connection with Lucasfilm, so they just made stuff up. Yeah.
I think it's pretty clever of Jordan to let some Star Wars fans go off and reveal how much they love it, and then he's like, hey, let me sell you some comics.
Right, exactly.
I didn't have much to contribute this episode.
That's pretty good.
Well,
I'll definitely be checking them out.
that is very good timing. This week was the 40th anniversary of Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, true. They had a new one sheet came out. Looked pretty cool. All right, I think we did it. I got it out of my system.
Well, good. I am glad you finally watched those shows.
I am too.
Especially Rebels, because I did not there for a while think you would go on beyond Clone Wars.
I know I posted this. So this is that book that guy sent me, Kickley. Yeah, I'm not sure, Kickley Comics or whatever. I don't know. He's from France or whatever, but he drew a bunch of these Star Wars drawings, and then he said, I saw basically you could buy these for I'm not sure how much, but he would do a little sketch in the back for like $50, whoever you wanted. But he just gave it to me for free because I bought that Dungeons and Dragons painting. And he's like, "Who do you want me to draw?" What? Actually, first, full disclosure, he said he has 3 sketchbooks: a G.I. Joe, a Star Wars, and a Masters of the Universe. And the first one he offered me, like I didn't have a choice, was Masters of the Universe, which was the last one I wanted. And I misunderstood that you should pick that theme. He's like, "Okay, I got a Motu book. Who do you want me to draw on the back?" I said, "Captain America." And then I was like, "Oh, wait, I don't care. Skeletor or whatever, And he's like, "Oh, I can't find any of those. Which do you want, G.I. Joe or Star Wars?" And so I really that was the most painful decision of my life.
G.I. Joe or Star Wars.
And it hurt me.
The decision's supposed to be G.I. Joe or Transformers, not G.I. Joe or Star Wars.
I know. I'd never been had this thrown at me before. And what was cool about the G.I. Joe ones, the sketchbook, he had took one of the cards from the back of a G.I. Joe figure where it had all the characters on it, and he drew a sketch of each of those characters, and that's what the book was. I was like, "That's amazing." And it didn't have Shipwreck on it. I was like, so I'd have him draw Shipwreck, and I was like, finally, whatever. I was like, I'm too Star Wars right now. And so I had him draw. We didn't even mention the character that I loved was Cad Bane.
Yeah, the bounty hunter.
So, I mean, come on. That's not in the book. I got an original drawing of that. I love that guy. This was the number one guy I would like to see show up in one of these new shows. So,
yeah, before we head out, because I didn't know where to throw this in. It's just happened recently. I didn't know where to throw what episodes include it, but I wanted to hit real quick on some Disney park stuff, what's happening. Josh D'Amaro, which you guys probably have no idea who that was. He has been the president of Walt Disney World the last 7 months. He's kind of a superstar right now in the Disney company. He's a younger guy, very good looking, very, very personable.
Is this thing on? Very good looking.
But he has had a very visual presence in the park since he's been around, walking around day and night, interacting with cast members, interacting with guests there, all that. Yeah.
That's what good looking people do. They just walk around interacting with stuff.
Everybody loves him.
Being all visual.
I bet he loves Zoom.
Yeah. But he recently was promoted to chairman of Disney Parks, Experiences, and Products. So this guy is now in charge of all the theme parks around the world.
What happened to the guy everybody hates? What was the new guy
Bob
you were
Chapek.
against?
Bob Chapek is his boss. Bob Chapek took over for Iger. D'Amaro,
and he's only a 4 or 5. You don't.
Yeah. Bob Chapek is not a looker.
No. Then Rebecca Campbell also, she was president of Disneyland, and she has been promoted to chairman of Disney's direct-to-consumer and international. She is basically head of Disney Plus. Okay, that's going to be the big thing. The only thing that's making money right now. And she succeeds Kevin Mayer, who is leaving. He probably should have gotten a little bit more consideration for when Chapek was moved up. Could have been, he was in the running also, so a little bit of bad feelings there. He's moving over to TikTok to be the CEO of TikTok. If anybody's wondering. And then Jeff, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Jeff Vahle, or it's Vahle. He's been promoted to the new president of Walt Disney World, which is a big deal to me because that's where I go. He comes from Disney's signature experiences, so he was in charge of Adventures by Disney. I believe Cruise Line, Alani, I think that's it. But that's where he's coming from. He is also highly favored. The product has improved since he's been in charge of that stuff. And then the big thing with him that was important to me is he is actually on the board of directors of Give Kids the World, the charity they have a village in Kissimmee, Florida, right next to Walt Disney World and Universal Studios, where they take terminally ill children and their families and they bring them down for free, and they give them they stay there at the village, and then they provide them with vacations to Walt Disney World or SeaWorld or Universal, wherever the kids want to go. So one of the top run charities in the country. It's my personal favorite. As far as donating goes, that's where I always recommend to people. I've raised money for them before. So that's a really good thing for him. Hopefully that'll work out well. Everybody's really excited about Josh D'Amaro and getting the promotion. It's a little bittersweet because I wish we could have had him a little longer in Walt Disney World, because he was improving things. Cast morale was up, which is always a good thing.
How good looking is this guy? Cast morale was up,
not because of how good he looked.
Jeez, that
Cast
guy.
morale was
it
up.
didn't hurt.
It didn't hurt. But he does subscribe to the old adage of, if you take care of your employees will take care of your guests. Imagine that.
That is an old adage.
Yeah.
That's pre-corona.
Also, really, really quick, Universal Studios Orlando Resort is opening back up June 1st to, they're saying invited guests for a few days. Rumor is it'll probably be some annual pass holders, just as almost a soft opening. And then June 5th, they're reopening to the public. Everything. There's going to be strict guidelines, temperature taking. You must wear a mask at all times. They'll have sanitation stations throughout the parks and restaurants where you can wash your hands or use hand sanitizer. Social
to Josh Duhamel.
This is Universal, not Disney.
Oh, sorry.
Wrong company.
Still.
Social distancing will be practiced. Virtual, they're going to be using the virtual queue system they already have in place so people aren't standing in line on top of each other. And then limited capacity, and of course restaurants will be switching over to paper menus that you can just one and done, throw it away when you're finished with it. So
that'll fix it. So sounds like we've cured the problems.
I think so.
And we're good to go.
Well, yeah. Until they get open and everybody starts complaining about whether they're already complaining about wearing a mask down there. On
Transition to greatness achieved.
Exactly. Mission accomplished.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this trip to a galaxy far, far away. We're boldly going where no man has gone before.
That's it.
Central Florida.
Right? Is that right?
Yep.
Okay, sounds good. We'll catch you later on the next episode. My name is Jordan Love.
I'm Cliff Barnes.
I'm Seth. Bye. Forever.
Ka-Pow, the pop culture podcast, is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Sounds, music, and clips played during the podcast are property of copyright holders. All original content is property of www.udownwithkpp.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and leave a comment. Ka-Pow, the pop culture podcast, is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, and wherever podcasts can be found. You can connect with us through social media on Facebook, YouTube, at the Ka-Pow Podcast on Twitter, or email the show, Ka-Pow, the pop culture podcast, @gmail.com. If you really want to go the extra mile, please sign up to be a patron through the Podbean app or our website, www.udownwithkpp.com, to receive special content and early access to some episodes. We are grateful to anyone that chooses to contribute, but please know that most of our content will always remain free, so please continue to like, comment, and share.
Hello.
Are you allowed to have a beard with the mask situation?
Yeah, they don't even know I have one.
Okay. I was so confused.
Okay, tell me. I want to make sure this is using the right thing. Can you hear me good?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you really good.
Okay, good. This will all be the best we've had so far.
Okay. What are you using different?
I got that snowball I was using the first time a few weeks ago wasn't working right, and then last week I tried the headphones and that was a pain in the ass, but I'm back with the snowball and I think I got it set up right. So.
I wondered about that first time you used the snowball microphone.
I stole your beard. You can't hear me. We swapped beards. He's still not.
Yeah. I can see him. Nah, I can't hear you. Uh-oh. Anyways, that first time when you had that snowball mic out, I thought, wow, that's a really, for a USB mic, that's really rated pretty high. And I was like, I wonder, it still kind of sounds the same. Like, I wonder why it didn't work.
It wasn't using it.
You were still using the laptop
Well,
mic.
okay, listen. I have a guy who lives here who has 2 computer degrees.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
So when he comes and I say, here, do this, I expect him to be...
I know what's wrong with his. Hold on, I'm going to put it in the chat.
Jordan's connecting to audio, it says.
Oh, there we go.
No, there
we
it is. I was just going to tell you, you might have to go into your microphone or your playback settings and change it to your headphones.
Well, he did it on the computer. He set it to the snowball, but then tonight I was looking at it and you have to set it in Zoom.
Yeah.
I have to pick snowball.
When I got here and everything worked.
Yeah, you sound good.
Good.
I need a bigger desk.
Leave video if you don't want to watch me eat this a little bit.
That's all right.
That's all right.
I took your beard. This is somebody ought to pay $1 for this.
Did you get China Wind?
No, I just had a little microwavable meal.
Oh, okay. I got Las Trancas for lunch today for me and Alicia, and ordered it right at 11, right when they opened, so I could run down there before there were a bunch of people there and pick it up.